Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch is a fantastic game, but one area where it falls short is explaining certain things to the player. Some things are briefly mentioned despite being a core mechanic. Some things are over-explained by making them sound more complicated than they actually are. Some things are just in that massive wizard's companion that we are expected to read but don't, let's be honest. And some things aren't even mentioned at all. I have previously uploaded quite a few tip videos for Ni no Kuni, be sure to check those out if you haven't already. I've even made a playlist, but today I want to cherry pick some important information from my videos and consolidate them into a single helpful and snappy tip video. Hello, I'm Heather at Amalgamingle, and here are 20 things that Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch doesn't tell you. Number 20. Revisit Old Father Oak. You meet Old Father Oak pretty much straight away when you first leave Motorville to journey to the other world and find that Ding Dong Dell gates closed to visitors due to the guardsmen being broken-hearted. He gives you the task of calming the Forest Guardian, a locket to restore the guardsman, your first familiar, the Telling Stone, and he invites you to periodically revisit him to tell him of your travels.
You must come and see me from time to time and tell me of your travels.
But how many of us actually revisited him? It's too easy to forget that Old Father Oak even exists, not to mention that the slow rollout of transport in the game means that trekking to the deep dark woods can sometimes be a pain. But sadly, if you don't visit him, you lose out on rewards he gives you. There are 13 instances where rewards will be given upon reporting your progress. Sometimes you just get new dialogue, but most of the time he gives useful items and equipment. I won't go into detail on when exactly to return to him because that would mean giving away story spoilers, so just be sure to pay him a visit after something significant happens. For example, after defeating dungeon bosses or after completing a significant story beat. Number 19. Familiar Genus Classifications. Did you know that there are 14 different familiar genus groups? The game does briefly mention this, but mostly expects us to look at the Wizard's Companion for further elaboration. A familiar's genus class tells us what status conditions that a familiar is either vulnerable or resistant to. Genus class also tells us what treat to primarily feed them in the creature cage to speed up familiarity, and what equipment it will be compatible with. There's Milites, Bestiae, Aquatica, Aves, Minima, Automata, Flora, Vermes, Nymphae, Dracones, Arcana, Daemonia, Mortui and Nobilia, familiar genus classes. Each familiar falls under one of these genus classes, and each playable character has their favourites. Pairing a familiar with a companion who favours their genus type will grant a 10% abilities boost, so when you are partnering companions with familiars, pay attention to the genus icons next to their names. If an icon pulses, then it's a match. Number 18. Astral Signs. Where genus types determine strengths and weaknesses to status effects, astral signs indicate a 5% resistance to one specific status effect and an attack type, and whether or not it has a natural advantage or disadvantage against other signs. Being strong against another sign means they can inflict 20% more damage, whereas being weak against another sign means you will receive 20% more damage. The explanation of the relationship between astral signs in the game is just atrocious. No player could possibly understand this unless they did their own independent research. There's sun, moon, star and planet signs. Sun signs are resistant to fire type attacks and sleep and inflict 20% more damage against moon signs. Moon signs are resistant to confusion and water type attacks and have a natural advantage over star signs. Star signs are resistant to poison and storm attacks, and are strong against sun signs. Planet signs are a little different and rare. Rather than having a specific resistance, it will gain 5% more experience and is strong against all other astral signs. Furthermore, familiars can have a single astral sign or a double astral sign, which of course doubles the effects. Number 17. Metamorphosis. When you conquer the Temple of Trials, you are introduced to the concept of metamorphosing familiars, which is a process comparable to Pokemon's evolution, but much simpler. Rather than having specific evolution requirements, familiars only need to reach a certain level to be able to metamorph into its second form. This can be done by feeding it a drop that corresponds to its astral sign inside the creature cage. So star signs should be fed a star drop, and moon signs should be given a moon drop, and you get the idea. This was well explained in the game, however, there's a few extra things you should know. First, you don't have to metamorphose when prompted. Familiars can often metamorphose long before they have reached their maximum level. Why is this a problem? Well, as a familiar levels up, their base stats increase in tandem and they gain access to new tricks. When a familiar is metamorphosed, its level falls to level 1 of its next form. If you max out the familiar's level before metamorphosing, then the familiar will retain higher base stats when its level falls to level 1 of the next phase. You also risk losing out on tricks learned at a level higher than the minimum level requirement for Metamorphosis, and these aren't always carried over to the next form. Furthermore, familiars have a third form that is a choice between two different final familiars, and sometimes this means a complete overhaul of the familiar's astral sign and attached strengths and weaknesses. Number 16. Horace Riddles. You may have stumbled across a ghost named Horace behind a stone slab in Ding Dong Dell, but the game never even hints at how important this seemingly inconsequential NPC is. Horace travels around to different locations and gives Oliver riddles to solve. Solving his riddles unlocks some of the best spells in the game, I'm not even joking. This includes the Vacate spell that can whisk you out of an area considered a dangerous place, the Chart Chest spell which makes hidden chests show up on the map, the Veil spell that allows Oliver to mask his scent and sneak up on familiars so they don't flee, and even the most powerful combat spell in the game is given to you by Horace. Following Horace's journey also culminates in unlocking the post-game errand 136. So if you see Horace hanging out, make sure to speak to him and follow his path throughout the game. I have previously uploaded a video guide that provides all the Horace riddle answers in order if you need help with this. Number 15. Familiar Tickets. When you gain your first companion, you head to the Temple of Trials to prove yourself as a wizard. After the trials, you are taught how to tame and metamorphose familiars. After that, it feels like a natural moment to be on your way. But before you head out, speak to the dude again and he will inform you that you can trade familiar tickets in exchange for a real familiar. And funnily enough, you already have a handful of familiar tickets in the miscellaneous section of your bottomless bag. Make sure you exchange these because the familiars you get are excellent and some cannot be caught in the game, such as the Flutterby and the Griffey. The Griffey can really turn the tides in battles if you are feeling a little weak at this point. Note that this is not the only place you can find familiar tickets. There is also a familiar ticket for the Mandragora for winning at the Crypt Casino. Number 14. Swift Solutions. It might sound obvious, but one thing I would definitely recommend is completing all of the bounty hunts and errands found inside Swift Solutions. I know it can be a pain sometimes and ask you to do a lot of backtracking or engage in some tedious task, but it's worth doing. When you complete errands and bounty hunts, you receive merit stamps for your merit card, and once you have a full card, you can spend these on unlocking new skills. Swift Solutions is introduced very early in Ding Dong Dell, but the importance isn't really emphasised. The skills you can unlock can grant some very basic gameplay improvements, such as decreasing vendor prices and increasing walking speed in the overworld and the speed of other means of traversal. There's also skills to increase XP gains and the amount of health and MP restoring glims that appear on the battlefield. The game is also designed to make specific skills become available at specific times in the game, because that's when you'll need them, so make sure you stay ahead of the game and complete all the quests that are on offer before moving forward. Number 13. Glims. Speaking of glims, did you know that there are ways to increase the likelihood of these health and MP restoring glowing balls of hope and joy? The purpose of glims does get explained during a combat tutorial, and it's explained very well. The yellowy orange ones restore a little health, the blue ones restore some MP, and the golden ones trigger miracle moves. But They don't tell you that you can increase the amount of glims that appear and increase the likelihood of a golden glim appearing by defending incoming attacks, exploiting enemy weaknesses, landing a critical hit, and triggering the nice icon and dialogue. This is especially vital information when trying to farm specific rare items for alchemy, since Swain's Light Fingers miracle move has a 100% chance of stealing the rarest possible item from a familiar in battle. Number 12. Alchemy Recipe Givers. Alchemy is introduced when you reach Castaway Cove, and although the process of mixing ingredients together to get a final product is explained quite well, there's one tiny thing that they fail to mention. There are numerous recipe givers in the game. These alchemy recipe givers are inconsequential looking NPCs in the world who give Oliver alchemy recipes when you speak to them. There are 134 alchemical recipes in the game, and whilst a lot of them are gained through mission rewards and story progression, a lot of them are hidden. There's a lady in a boat at the harbour in Castaway Cove who actually gives you the cappuccino recipe for MP restoration. There's a man dressed in purple outside Swift Solutions in Hamelin, a boy outside the Elder House in Perdida, the Sky Pirate on the Iron Wyvern, a fish in Tomte and Yule, and the Xanadu guard at the entrance of Perdida. Most of these are recipes for familiar treats, but some are for familiar equipment, better companion weapons, and extremely useful provisions, such as cappuccinos and espressos needed for restoring MP. Number 11. MP restoring items. Whilst we're on the subject of MP restoring provisions, did you know that there is an item called Nostrum in the world, which completely fills your MP meter? As Oliver grows stronger and his roster of spells increases, you develop a greater need for MP restoring items, and iced coffee will no longer suffice. Items that restore health are much easier to come by, but the only things that can restore MP are the blue glims that appear during battle, coffee variants, and Nostrum. Once you unlock alchemy, creating cappuccinos and espressos are the way forward. You can just stock up on the ingredients required and alchemize yourself a lot of these, espressos being the strongest and restoring the most out of all the coffee variants. But even so, after a while, even espressos will feel ineffective, since Oliver's MP can grow far beyond the amount that cappuccinos and espressos can restore. The answer is Nostrum. The best way to get Nostrum is to steal it from Ulks. Ulks are the large familiars that can be seen towering over the trees in the north of the rolling hills, and they are very tough opponents. Trying to defeat them might not be the best idea depending on your level, however, you can just use Swain's mugshot to steal the item and then flee from battle, rinse and repeat. Number 10. Alchemy Tracking. If you are trying to get the trophy or achievement, then the Alchemy Trophy Mad Scientist will likely be one of the trophies that give you the biggest headache, due to the need to farm lots of rare ingredients like Scrolls of Truth and Kaleidostones from very rare familiars. One way you can keep track of your progress is by paying attention to the icon shown on the list of alchemy formulas. This isn't mentioned in the game, but if an alchemy formula has a question mark in the area where the small image should be, then it's a sign that you have yet to produce that formula in the cauldron. If the formula listed does have a picture icon, then this is a way that you can consider it ticked off the list. Don't forget what I mentioned in the previous Glims entry about increasing the likelihood of golden glims appearing, so that you can utilise Swain's miracle move Light Fingers. Number 9. Surprisingly useful spells. Sometimes you can receive new spells, but the purpose of them is unclear. Many of the spells had a use in the original game but have no purpose in the remastered version. Other times some spells are useful, but only during certain moments, such as the secret ingredients spell used to create milk from the fountain in Alma Moon, or the Form Familiars spell that is only used once as a narrative device. But then there's spells that are extremely useful, and the purpose of them needs to be realised by the player. For example, the Veil spell, which masks the user's scent so that familiars don't run away, which is great when you need to tame a familiar that keeps running away from your godlike power, and is extremely useful for farming skittish familiars for XP, more on this later. Also, the levitate spell might seem a little pointless, but it is great when you are trying to avoid pools of toxic liquids that will poison you, like in the Miasma Marshes en route to Nevermore. As previously touched upon, the Veil spell can be gained by solving Horace's riddle in Perdida, and the levitate spell can be gained from casting Nature's Tongue on a seagull at the entrance to the fairy ground, which is hard to miss since you need to do this to gain a piece of art for the main story anyway. Number 8. Treasure chests. Something that is definitely not explained in the game is that there are different kinds of chests. There's red chests, which are standard treasure chests that contain low-level quality items. There's blue chests that are magically locked, which can be opened by Oliver using the Spring Lock spell gifted to him by King Tom. The strength of the Spring Lock spell is determined by how powerful the wand that Oliver is currently using is. Oliver can initially open the blue chests, but as he acquires more powerful wands, he can begin opening purple chests. Purple chests can be unlocked after completing the Miasma Marshes section of the game, and the items inside are of higher quality than the red and blue chests. Then there's green chests that require Swain's gun to open. When you reach Castaway Cove, you gain access to Swain's trickshot ability, which allows you to open out-of-reach green chests. These can sometimes be tricky, since you must find the correct place for Swain to stand in order to get a good shot. Chests can be found all over the world, in dungeons, towns, caves, and even hidden in high places or secret areas. The Chart Chest spell, gained from Horace in Hamelin, can be cast in cities or dungeons to reveal the locations of chests on the map and minimap. This spell lasts for 1 minute before you need to cast it again if you haven't already found the chest. It also shows pots that contain items, very useful. There are also countless hidden chests in the overworld, and I don't mean the twinkling spots. These are invisible to the naked eye, but the location of the chests can be revealed by casting the Seek Fortune spell that is gained from Kublai. Time for a treasure hunt. Number 7. Forest Dwellers. There are many hidden areas in the world of Ni no Kuni. Some of these areas are discovered through side questing, but some are not. Instead, you have to find them by yourself, by simply being inquisitive. Forest dwellers are scattered around the world, and you can often find a hidden area by investigating a large cluster of trees, or backtracking once you can reach the location where you see a cave entrance. These areas often contain chests and NPCs, sometimes an errand. Examples of this include a random arrangement of trees in the Pig Iron Plains area and the post-game area where you can find the Conductor. This is a good thing to bear in mind if you want to get the Globetrotter trophy or achievement. Number 6. Wizard's Companion Secrets. The Wizard's Companion is a very comprehensive in-game guide. It's a lot to get through when you just want to play a video game. Anyways, what you might not know is that the Wizard's Companion has many secrets within. There is a ton of writing in Nazca alphabet in the book, which you can translate if you want to, using the reference towards the end of the book. It's worth doing translations for a deeper delve into the game world. Furthermore, if you zoom in on the drawings of familiars, a short animation will play for each one, which is an excellent underappreciated little feature. On the Wizarding Wars page, you can discover the rarest familiars by zooming in on the pages and scrolling across until you trigger a short film that shows the familiar in its natural habitat. You can then use the visual clues to determine where to find it, such as the Lumberwood, located in the trees on No Longer Mine, and Fuddy Daddy, hiding in trees in Nazca, hogging his rare bubble pipes that you need for alchemy, and more. Number 5. Tokos! Speaking of rare familiars, did you know that Ni no Kuni has an in-game XP exploit? Dragon Quest has metal slimes, Octopath Traveler has Kates, Final Fantasy has Cactuars, and Ni no Kuni has Tokos. I'm not going to lie, the early parts of the game are very grindy, but you can tell if you are appropriately levelled for the challenges that lie ahead in any particular area based on whether or not familiars run away from you. If you are over-levelled, then familiars will flee rather than run towards you. Sadly, there is no way to ease the grind until you gain means of transport that allow the world to open up a bit more after the Castaway Cove section. Once the world does open up, there are several spots where you can farm an immense amount of XP with little effort by defeating creatures called Tokos and their other forms. Tokos spawn on Ugly Duckling Isle that form part of Swan Islands, and they grant around 2000 XP upon defeat. They are skittish and will run away, so you have to sneak up on them. Later in the game you can find Toko Tokos on the route to Perdida, which grant around 9000 XP when defeated. The Toko Tokos can be found in the Ivory Tower, granting around a whopping 30,000 XP upon defeat. It's not easy though, you have to take them out quickly or else they will flee and you will lose out on the experience. Heavy hitting attacks like Air Splitter are excellent for this. Number 4. Difficulty spikes. Despite the colourful, light-hearted and cartoony animation style of Studio Ghibli, this game can be extremely mean. Every now and again you will hit a massive difficulty spike out of nowhere, and it can be frustrating, especially before you have access to Toko farming. Examples of this is the boss fight against the Royal Jelly, the Porco Grosso boss fight, fighting nightmares if you are unprepared, and sometimes you can feel a spike in difficulty just by moving from one area to the next. The reason I'm mentioning this is because there is rarely anything to hint that you are about to hit these difficulty spikes. They often come out of nowhere. So basically you always need to be on alert and make sure you have a good supply of provisions and a healthy, well-equipped party. Number 3. Foraging. The overworld has a lot of twinkling spots where you can forage for items that respawn after some time has passed. The item you gain from each location never changes, so you can reliably farm specific items you need in certain places on the map, once you memorise their locations. For example, there are 3 spots where you can reliably farm slumber knot leaves needed to make cappuccinos and espressos, and I have memorised a route to ensure I periodically pick them up. You also have a bottomless bag, so you can really go crazy on stocking up on everything you might need, and you can sell things in the game to gain money. Twinkling spots are a great way to find raw ingredients for alchemy, and there is an unlockable skill that makes your foraging efforts more fruitful. Number 2. Freezing combat actions. The combat in Ni no Kuni is perhaps the most divisive element of the game. I personally love the combat system, but I can understand why some people prefer the simpler system in Revenant Kingdom. Basically, you have Oliver and 2 other controllable companions. Oliver can use his own roster of spells, deploy one of his 3 familiars, or choose to switch to another companion who also have their own abilities and familiar rosters. This is a lot to work with, and in the heat of battle it's a lot to remember. However, one way to turn down the mid-battle heat is to take note of when the action freezes. Most of the time the battle unfolds in real time whilst you are scrambling to think about what familiar tricks or spells to use whilst dodging incoming attacks and remembering that the battle actions exist. But if you open up Oliver's spells menu or some other menu screens such as provisions, the action freezes mid-combat. This allows you precious moments to breathe and come up with your next move. Number 1. Post-game content. Once you've finished the main story, Ni no Kuni offers a wide variety of post-game content that you can sink your teeth into. Completionists can set out to tame every familiar in the game and squeeze all that they can out of alchemy, but there is also a lengthy questline called the Conductor that entails taking out numerous waves of bounties around the world so that you can gain access to an optional boss known as the Guardian of Worlds. To trigger this questline, you need to speak to the rabbit in the suit in a hidden area near the Golden Grove, and when you defeat the final optional boss, Guardian of Worlds, you get quite a cool reward which I won't spoil here. Furthermore, you can hunt down golden familiars, metamorphose every familiar, and spend some time in the casino. Ni no Kuni has a lot to offer players, and it doesn't stop after you complete the main story. So there you have it, there's 20 things that Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch doesn't tell you. I could probably have gone into much more detail, like alchemy familiar classifications, combat tips and post-game content could be their own dedicated videos. Anyways, I hope this video has helped to clarify a few things that the game either explains badly or completely omits. Stay tuned on the channel for more Ni no Kuni content and content on the many other games that I adore. I've been Heather at Amalgamingle and thank you very much for watching.